After I had a seizure, my dad told me to just take some Tylenol. I ended up selling my laptop to afford my medication, only to find out he'd blown $18,000 from my trust fund on a guitar so my brother could play on stage. I was still shaking, head throbbing under the cold, sterile glare of the hospital pharmacy lights. But the real blow wasn't the seizure that had just left me on the floor. It was the chilling realization, in that 2 a.m. haze, that my own father had just made a brutal calculation. An $18,000 vintage guitar was a better investment than his own daughter's life. It was 2 a.m. My temple was pounding where I'd hit the linoleum floor 3 hours earlier, and the bruise was already a dark, ugly purple. I could see it mirrored in the plexiglass separating me from Mr. Henderson, the night pharmacist. He slid the discharge instructions across the counter, the prescription for Vimpat, and the terrifying cost, $650. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, so I gripped the counter to steady myself. My HSA card should cover it, I mumbled, my voice sounding distant, like I was underwater. My father manages the account. Mr. Henderson swiped the card. Beep, beep. Then a long, flat tone, like a funeral dirge. Declined. Zero balance. The words hung in the air, surreal. I stared at the screen, my name, my account, that impossible zero. No, that's not right, I insisted, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. There should be money. Can you try again? He swiped it 3 more times. Same desolate beep. Same devastating zero. Insurance requires prior authorization from the policyholder for this medication, he explained, pushing the card back. You'll need to contact them directly. The policyholder. My father. My phone felt impossibly heavy as I pulled it from my pocket. The screen was cracked, another casualty of my fall. Everything felt cracked, broken, wrong tonight. I stepped away from the growing line of patients and dialed. For rings. I counted every single one. This better be important, Rochelle. His voice was sharp, annoyed. Not an ounce of worry. No concern for his daughter calling from a hospital at 2 a.m. Dad, I'm at the pharmacy. They need authorization for my Vimpat prescription. And my HSA card declined. Can you approve it? Or transfer some money? Silence. Then, that heavy sigh. The one that always meant I'd disappointed him again. There's been a routine IRS audit, he finally said, his voice flat. All the accounts are temporarily frozen. Nothing I can do tonight. My heart hammered against my ribs, a desperate drumbeat. But I need this medication. The doctor said it's urgent. I had a seizure, Dad. A bad one. You're always having something. His tone shifted, bristling with irritation. I'm handling a financial situation right now. Can't this wait until morning? Wait until morning? No. They'd warned me I could have another seizure without it. I need $650, please. I heard rustling, hushed voices in the background. Then his voice changed, growing defensive. And that's when I knew I'd caught him at something. Look, I just secured the 1968 vintage Fender Stratocaster for Sterling's showcase tomorrow. $18,000. That's an investment. Your medication is a sunk cost. Go home and take a Tylenol. His words slammed into me like a second seizure. $18,000. For a guitar. While my health savings account sat at zero. Dad, I can't just take Tylenol. This isn't a headache. I was unconscious. I bit my tongue. I don't remember anything between smelling rotten eggs and waking up on the floor with paramedics over me. Don't be dramatic. It's just a headache. You've always been dramatic. The memory clawed its way to the surface. 16-year-old me, sitting in the SAT testing room. That sulfuric smell, rotten eggs, suddenly overwhelming. I'd raised my hand, asked to be excused, said I felt sick. The proctor called my father. He'd arrived furious, accusing me of faking, of being lazy. Stop being lazy and dramatic, he'd sneered right there, in front of everyone. I'd finished the test in a fog, unable to focus, and my scores had reflected it. He'd been even angrier then. I should hang up. I should scream. Tell him what I really thought. But the old programming, the one that had run my entire life, kicked in. I'm sorry, I heard myself say, the words tasting like ash. I'm sorry for waking you up. Just go home. We'll figure it out in the morning. The line went dead. I stood there, phone clutched in my hand, staring through the plexiglass at Mr. Henderson. He was watching me with something that looked suspiciously like pity. I shook my head, walked past the waiting patients, and pushed through the automatic doors into the biting November air. Cold. Sharp. Real. My car sat under a streetlight, small and ordinary. The discharge papers explicitly said not to drive after a seizure, but an ambulance bill would utterly annihilate me financially. I climbed in, gripping the steering wheel with both hands, trying to still the tremor. That's when it hit me. Not another seizure. Something colder, sharper, a sickening clarity. If I had died on that linoleum floor tonight, he would have worried about the funeral costs. Not my life. Not me. Just the expense of disposing of his liability daughter. I started the engine. I wasn't dying tonight. Not for him. Not because he decided a guitar was worth more than my brain. I pulled out of the parking lot, driving slowly, carefully, into the dark Denver streets. My hands still shook on the wheel, but it was different now. Not fear. Rage. For 3 grueling days, I rationed the pills my roommate had loaned me, splitting tablets, counting hours, waking at 4 a.m. to keep the medication in my system. My life depended on it. Now, I sat in Dr. Elias Thorne's waiting room, staring blankly at the intake form. Previous neurologist visits? I left it empty. I honestly didn't know. Rochelle Thompson? Dr. Thorne wasn't like the others. No fake smile, no clipboard held like a shield. Maybe 60, with steel gray hair, a face that had seen too much to tolerate BS. He looked at me, then at his computer. You are non-compliant with your previous treatment plan. Not a question. An accusation. I didn't know I had a treatment plan. He turned the monitor toward me. The federal database glowed, my name at the top. Below it, a list that made my stomach plummet, patient no-show. Dr. Patricia Valdez. Neurology. April 2021. Patient no-show. Dr. Michael Reyes. Neurology. September 2021. 5 appointments over 4 years. 5 appointments I'd never known existed. My parents told me I had anemia, I whispered, my voice barely there. When I was 14, they just said I needed iron supplements. Dr. Thorne scrolled up. The diagnosis. Black text on a white screen, dated 10 years ago. Temporal lobe epilepsy. Not anemia. Not teenage drama. Not laziness. Epilepsy. My father knew. For 10 years, he knew. I need you to log into your patient portal, Dr. Thorne instructed. Pull up any records from your pediatrician. I tried. Username, password. The spinning wheel of frustration. Access denied. I tried again. Same result. The 2-factor authentication must have reset, I offered, my voice hollow. Let me try the recovery email. That bounced back too. Address not found. Dr. Thorne leaned forward, his gaze piercing. Try calling the portal helpline. Right now. I dialed. The automated system asked for my phone number. I'm sorry, that number is not associated with this account. What number is on file? I demanded of the robot. It recited a number I didn't recognize, but I knew whose it was, my father's business line. Someone changed your contact information, Dr. Thorne said, his jaw tightening. Someone deliberately locked you out of your own medical records. My phone buzzed. Mom's photo flashed on the screen. A part of me, a tiny, foolish part, still hoped she might help. Rochelle, honey? Her voice had that thin, stretched quality it always got when she was trying to keep the peace. Your father got an alert that someone tried to access the insurance portal. That was me. I need my medical records. Well, you can't just go accessing things without asking. He manages those accounts for a reason. What reason? What possible reason would he have for hiding a diagnosis from me? Silence. Then, don't upset your father right before Sterling's big night. He's doing what's best for the family finances. Just be tough. I had a seizure, Mom. I could have died. You're always so dramatic. Your father says you're just stressed about school. In the background, I heard his voice. Is she calling about money again? My mother's voice dropped to a whisper. Honey, I have to go. Just try to understand. This is hard for all of us. She hung up. I sat there, holding the dead phone. Dr. Thorne was writing, his pen moving in sharp, angry strokes across a prescription pad. 30 days of Vimpat, he said. $650. Your insurance won't cover it without prior authorization, which your father controls. Do you have that money? My bank account. $847 left from my teaching assistant stipend. Rent was due in 12 days. If I bought the medication, I couldn't pay rent. If I paid rent, I'd seize. I looked at my backpack on the floor. My MacBook Pro was inside, the one I'd used for every architecture project for 3 years. My drafting equipment. My parallel ruler. My scale templates. Everything I needed for my thesis. I'll figure it out, I said, the words heavy. Later that day, the pawn shop smelled like old leather and desperation. The guy behind the counter barely glanced up as I unzipped my backpack. MacBook Pro, 16-inch, 2 years old, I said. Drafting equipment, professional grade. He turned on the laptop, checked the specs, handled my tools like they were contaminated. $700. It's worth at least $1,200. Not to me, it's not. $700. Take it or leave it. I thought about the Stratocaster. $18,000. For a guitar my father bought while I stood shaking in a pharmacy at 2 a.m. $800, I said. Final offer. He shrugged. Fine. Cash only. The bills felt obscene in my hand. I drove straight to a different pharmacy, across town, where they wouldn't recognize my face. The pharmacist took my money, handed me the bottle, no questions asked. I sat in my car, clutching the pills. My laptop was gone. My thesis drafting tools were gone. Everything I needed to finish my degree, traded for 30 days of not dying. I opened the bottle, took one pill with lukewarm water from a gas station bottle, and swallowed it down. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. Stop harassing your mother. Focus on school. I stared at the message, then placed the pill bottle in my glove compartment, locked it. I gripped the steering wheel with both hands. He thought I was weak. He thought I'd break. But I had just traded my future for my brain, and I'd do it again. That made me stronger than he would ever understand. My father wasn't sitting idly by. I didn't know it then, but an alert had popped up on his phone. Portal login attempt. Rochelle's credentials. Failed. He knew I was digging. I was in my dorm room, still staring at that locked patient portal screen, when his text buzzed through. Stop acting out or I'll stop tuition payments. You're jealous of Sterling's success. My stomach lurched. I hadn't expected him to notice so quickly, or to care enough to threaten me. A second text followed. This behavior is unacceptable. Get help. I set my phone down as if it might explode. My hands wanted to shake, but I wouldn't let them. What I didn't see was the email he sent 30 seconds later to Professor Marion Caldwell, my graduate advisor. Subject: Family emergency regarding Rochelle Thompson. The body, Rochelle, is experiencing a mental health crisis. Please monitor her behavior carefully. She has become fixated on perceived family slights. May exhibit erratic conduct. We are concerned for her well-being and academic standing. He was building a narrative, painting me as the unstable one, before I could tell anyone what he'd done. But I had my own evidence. 3 days of discharge summaries, medication logs, and that diagnosis sheet from Dr. Thorne. Temporal lobe epilepsy. Diagnosed age 14. Treatment delayed 10 years. I stacked the papers carefully in a manila folder and drove. 40 minutes west, to Lakewood, to my Aunt Maura's brick bungalow. I hadn't seen her in 8 years. Dad had cut her off after Grandma's funeral. Maura's bitter about the will, he declared. She's toxic. We don't associate with toxic people. I knocked. Waited. The door opened, and Maura stood there, exactly as I remembered her, just a little grayer. She had Dad's sharp jawline, but her eyes were kind. Rochelle, her voice cracked. My God. Look at you. I didn't know what she saw. Maybe the faded yellow-green bruise on my temple, the dark circles under my eyes, the fact that I was wearing the same coat I'd worn to Grandma's funeral because I couldn't afford another. I need your help, I said. It's about Dad. She stepped aside immediately. Come in. Her kitchen table was scarred oak, rich with decades of use. I spread my papers across it like evidence in a trial. Maura sat opposite me, reading Dr. Thorne's notes, her jaw tightening with each line. "He hid your epilepsy diagnosis for 10 years, she said, the words a stark, undeniable truth. And he took my HSA card to zero while buying an $18,000 guitar for Sterling." Maura closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. "There's something you need to know." She stood, walked to a filing cabinet in the hallway, and returned with a folder even thicker than mine. "The Thompson Family Trust. Your grandmother established it specifically for you," Maura explained. "Medical needs and education. It should hold $150,000. The number didn't compute." "What?" "I'm listed as backup trustee. Your father is primary. When Mom died, she wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of. She knew about your seizures, Rochelle. She knew, and she was terrified Garrick wouldn't handle it properly." My vision tunneled. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I haven't spoken to your father in 8 years, Maura said, her voice strained. "Not since he showed his true colors with our mother's will. He got the house, the cars, everything liquid. Mom only managed to protect this one thing for you, and she made me backup trustee as insurance. But I never had reason to access the account. I assumed he was managing it properly." She slid the folder toward me. The trust documents were official, notarized, dated 3 months before Grandma died. I read my name again and again. Beneficiary: Rochelle Marie Thompson. Purpose: medical care and educational expenses. "Can you access it?" My voice sounded strange, distant, even to me. Maura was already pulling out her laptop. "I can try." Meanwhile, back at the Thompson house, Sterling was supposed to be at a music theory class, but he'd come home sick. That's what he told Mom anyway. Really, he needed Dad's emergency credit card from the office for textbooks. He was walking past the den when he heard Dad's voice, low and urgent, through the door. "I told you I'll have it by Friday. Sterling showcase brings in investors. I've got 3 lined up who want to fund his first album. That's $20,000 minimum." Silence. Then, "Don't threaten me. I've been good for it before." Sterling froze. His father's tone was wrong. Desperate. Dad didn't do desperate. "Fine. 15% interest. But I need until Friday." Loan shark. Sterling knew that tone from movies. His stomach churned. He heard the chair scrape and moved quickly, quietly, back toward the kitchen, getting there just as Dad emerged, already dialing another number. Sterling's heart hammered. He pulled out his phone, opened Venmo, typed my username. $500. Everything he had from his part-time job at Guitar Center. His thumb hovered over the pay button. "Give me that." Garrick was faster than he looked. He snatched the phone from Sterling's hand just as his thumb descended. The screen still glowed with the confirmation prompt. "You are going to send her money?" Garrick's face turned purple. He hit cancel with a violent tap and shoved the phone into his own pocket. "You don't send her anything. Ever. Do you understand? She's my sister. She had a seizure. She's manipulating you." Dad's voice dropped, becoming cold and precise. "Rochelle is on drugs. Has been for months. That's why she's acting erratic, making up stories about medical conditions. She's using you because she resents your talent. She always has." The words should have sounded true. Dad's voice always had that certainty. But Sterling kept replaying that phone conversation. The desperation. And he thought of me at Thanksgiving 2 years ago, talking about my architecture thesis, my eyes bright with real passion. "I want my phone back. When you prove you can be trusted." Dad pocketed it. "You have a showcase in 36 hours. Focus on that." Back at Maura's kitchen table, the trust portal finally loaded. Maura had entered her backup trustee credentials, gone through 2-factor authentication. The page refreshed. Account balance, $2,100. I stared at the number. Maura went pale. "That's impossible. There should be over $147,000 more." My hands were steady now. Perfectly steady. "Show me the transaction history." She clicked. Pages and pages of withdrawals. Most marked specialized educational consulting, payments going to something called Thompson Solutions LLC. "That's a shell company," Maura said, her voice shaking with barely contained rage. "I'd bet my house on it." I pulled out my phone. Searched Thompson Solutions LLC. Nothing. No website. No business listing. A ghost company existing only to drain my medical fund. Look at the dates, I pointed. Maura leaned in. March 2019, $8,000 withdrawal. I googled Garrick Thompson gambling and found a Reddit post from that month about a Boulder poker tournament. Big losses. October 2020, $12,000 withdrawal. Sterling's first professional guitar, a Martin D28. I remembered Dad bragging about it. Last month, $18,000 withdrawal. The Fender Stratocaster. My brain surgery fund. He used my brain surgery fund to cover his gambling debts and buy Sterling's career. He stole from you. Maura's voice broke. He stole from his sick daughter to fund his golden child. I should have felt destroyed. Utterly betrayed. Instead, something sharp, clear, and cold slid into place behind my ribs. We can sue, Maura said, her voice regaining its steel. We have everything. Bank records. Trust documents. Medical proof you were denied care. I shook my head slowly. He'll destroy my reputation and education before we ever reach court. He already started. He has power I don't have. Yet, Maura studied my face. What are you thinking? He thinks I'm just a sick, jealous girl, I said, stacking the papers precisely, my architectural training showing. I need him to keep thinking that. I had 36 hours until Sterling's showcase. Time to use his arrogance against him. The expression on my face must have been something new, something Maura hadn't seen before. She leaned back, and I swear she was almost smiling. You're Gloria's granddaughter after all. I drove back to campus, a folder full of evidence that could destroy my father. But destruction wasn't architecture. Architecture was about building something new from broken materials. And I was an architect. 2 days later, at 3 p.m., Garrick's Mercedes glided into my dorm's loading zone like he owned the place. Most students were in class, but I watched from my window as Deidre emerged first, clutching her purse, the concerned mother costume perfect, navy cardigan, pearls, the whole performance. I opened the door before they even knocked. Rochelle. Garrick didn't ask to come in. He strode past me, scanning my room like he was cataloging evidence. Deidre followed, her eyes darting to my roommate's empty bed, the borrowed laptop on my desk, the pill organizer on my nightstand. Where's your MacBook? He demanded. Sold it. His jaw tightened. For drug money. For medication money, there's a difference. He pulled a manila folder from under his arm and set it on my desk with deliberate care. The gesture was too practiced, too prepared. He'd been planning this. I've been in contact with your graduate advisor, Dr. Pembroke, he said, his voice dripping with false concern. Showed her some concerning emails you've sent recently. Paranoid accusations about family finances. Erratic behavior. She agrees you're experiencing a mental health crisis. My stomach clenched. You contacted my advisor? I'm your father. I have every right to be concerned. He tapped the folder. The laptop sale. These wild conspiracy theories about a trust fund. Your mother, and I think you're having a drug-induced psychotic break. Deidre moved closer, her voice soft, saccharine. Honey, we want to help you, but you need to admit you have a problem first. I looked at her, really looked at her. She believed this. Or she'd convinced herself to believe it because facing what Garrick actually did was too hard. I don't have a drug problem, I said, my voice steady. I have epilepsy. You know that. You've known it for 10 years. Garrick's face hardened. What we know is that you're jealous of your brother. You're trying to sabotage his showcase because you can't stand seeing him succeed. The accusation was so absurd, I almost laughed. But then I saw the printed emails in his folder, my messages to Aunt Maura, my attempts to access the trust portal. He'd been monitoring everything. Stop harassing the family, he said. His voice dropped lower, became almost gentle. The tone he used right before he destroyed something. Or, I'll file for an emergency conservatorship. I have a psychiatrist willing to sign the papers. You'll be in a psychiatric ward by tomorrow morning. The threat landed like a physical blow. He could do it. He had the documentation, the narrative, the concerned parent routine perfected. Who would they believe? The successful businessman or his sick daughter making wild accusations of embezzlement? Deidre touched my arm. Please, sweetheart. Just agree to get help. We can postpone your graduation. Take some time off. Take time off. Drop out. Disappear quietly while Garrick covered his tracks and Sterling got his showcase, and everything went back to normal. Everyone winning except me. But something shifted inside my chest. Not panic. Strategy. I remembered Aunt Mora's words. He thinks you're weak. Use that. My hands started shaking, not from fear, but from the deliberate effort of making them shake. I let my knees buckle slightly, catching myself on the desk. Dad, my voice cracked perfectly. Dad, I'm sorry. He blinked, clearly not expecting that. I sank onto my bed, let the tears come. They were surprisingly easy. Everything from the past 6 days was right there, ready to spill over. The pharmacy rejection, the pawn shop, the trust fund balance. I just redirected it, reshaped it into what he needed to see. The seizure, I sobbed. It messed me up. I was confused. Paranoid. I thought you were trying to hurt me, but that's crazy. You're my father. You wouldn't do that. Deidre knelt beside me. Oh, honey. I made everything up in my head. The trust fund. The invoices. I was looking for someone to blame for being sick. I grabbed her hand, squeezed it. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Please don't lock me up. Garrick crossed his arms, still wary. You need professional help, Rochelle. I know. I'll get it. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want. I looked up at him through my tears. Just don't commit me. Please. I'll leave town. I'll drop out after Sterling's showcase tomorrow. I'll disappear. You'll never have to deal with me again. The room went silent. I could hear the radiator ticking, someone's music down the hall. Just keep me on the health insurance, I whispered, my voice barely audible. That's all I ask. Please. Deidre's face crumbled. She pulled me into a hug that felt almost real. Of course you'll stay on our insurance. You're still our daughter. Garrick studied me for a long moment. I kept my face buried against Deidre's shoulder, let my body shake with carefully controlled sobs. I could feel him deciding, weighing options, calculating outcomes. Finally, he sighed. All right, but I want you gone by Monday. And if you contact Maura again or spread any more lies about this family, the deal is off. Understood. I nodded against Deidre's cardigan. Good girl. He actually patted my head, like I was a dog who'd learned a trick. Come to the showcase tomorrow night. At the Rusty Anchor. Say goodbye to Sterling properly. Show everyone you're still part of this family. Thank you, I choked out. Thank you, Dad. They left 20 minutes later, after Deidre made me promise to eat something, and Garrick confirmed I'd be at the Rusty Anchor by 8 p.m. I walked them to the parking lot, waved as their Mercedes pulled away. Back in my room, I closed and locked the door. The tears stopped like someone had flipped a switch. I opened my roommate's laptop. The files were exactly where I'd left them: trust documents, invoices, a meticulously crafted timeline. All uploaded to 3 separate cloud accounts this morning. Maura had copies. My attorney had copies. The IRS had received their package at 9 a.m. My phone was already in my hand. He took the bait. I texted Maura. Tomorrow at the Rusty Anchor. 8 p.m. Be ready. She responded immediately. 3 words, I'll be there. I set the phone down and looked at my reflection in the dark window. The girl staring back didn't look broken anymore. She looked sharp, focused, dangerous. He thought I was leaving town, running away like I always did, apologizing like I always had. He had no idea I was just getting started. Tomorrow night, in front of his investors and friends and extended family, Garrick Thompson was going to learn what it costs to steal from a sick daughter. He was going to learn that the broken girl he'd patted on the head today had been building a trap for 6 days, and tomorrow at 8 p.m., that trap was going to snap shut around his throat. I smiled at my reflection. It wasn't a nice smile. That's my good girl, I whispered, mocking his words. Then I opened the laptop and started drafting the presentation slides. The next evening, the Rusty Anchor reeked of stale beer and desperation. I arrived at 7:45 p.m., slipping through the back entrance near the loading dock, while the front doors were clogged with investors in expensive suits and family friends air-kissing each other. The crowd was larger than I expected. Garrick had outdone himself. Through a gap in the backstage curtain, I could see him holding court in the VIP section. The 1968 vintage Fender Stratocaster sat on a display stand beside him like a trophy, stage lights gleaming on its sunburst finish. $18,000 of stolen money, polished and gleaming. "This guitar represents sacrifice," Garrick announced to the cluster of potential investors around him, his voice carrying that practiced humility that always turned my stomach. A real investment in real talent. Deidre sat beside him in a cream dress, her frozen smile perfected over years. The perfect supporting wife, laughing at something, touching Garrick's arm, playing her role flawlessly. I checked my phone. Files uploaded to the cloud. Maura had confirmed the IRS and probate court received everything this morning at 9. By 3 p.m., his accounts were frozen. He didn't know it yet. Sterling was on stage, doing his sound check, running through scales on a borrowed amp. He looked nervous, kept glancing toward the VIP section for approval. My chest tightened watching him. He had no idea what was coming. The stage tech was adjusting the projector aimed at the massive screen behind the drum kit. Perfect. I moved toward him, phone in hand. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "I'm with the family. Mind if I queue up some photos for between sets?" Dad wanted a slideshow. He barely looked at me, just waved toward the connection panel. "Sure. Input 3. He tossed me a wireless presentation clicker. "It's paired to the system." "Thanks." My hands were steady as I connected my phone to the console and tucked it behind the mixing board. The screen flickered to life, currently displaying the venue's logo. I kept the files minimized, clutching the small black remote in my palm like a weapon. Sterling finished his warm-up and set the borrowed guitar down, reaching for the Stratocaster. The weight of it changed his posture. He stood taller, holding it. It was 8 p.m. I walked onto the stage. Sterling saw me, his eyes widening with confusion. I took the microphone from the stand before anyone could stop me. The room didn't go quiet immediately. Conversations continued. Someone laughed. A glass clinked. Then I clicked the remote. The screen behind me illuminated with the first image, Thompson Family Trust. Balance, $150,000. Date, January 2015. The conversation started dying. Thompson Family Trust. Balance, $2,100. Date, October 2024. Now I had their attention. "You didn't buy that guitar with hard work, Dad." My voice came out clear, projected, calm, and factual, like someone giving an architectural presentation. "You bought it with my brain surgery fund. Over $147,000 embezzled from Grandma's trust over 10 years. Click. The screen cycled to the next image, invoice after invoice to Garrick's shell company, labeled Specialized Educational Consulting. The dates lined up perfectly with his known gambling losses. I'd marked them in red, and $18,000 of that went directly into this guitar. Garrick was already moving. His chair screeched back. His face went from tan to purple in seconds, veins standing out on his neck. He charged the stage, just like I knew he would. Just like I needed him to. "You have no right," he screamed. "I am the trustee. I decide where the money goes. I invested in the asset." He jabbed his finger at Sterling at the guitar. "Sterling, you are a liability, Rochelle. You're a sick money pit who would have wasted it on pills." The room went absolutely silent. Someone's phone was up, recording. I could see the red dot. Several phones. Everyone was capturing this. His own words. In front of investors. Family, friends. Extended relatives. He'd destroyed himself. Sterling stood frozen, clutching the $18,000 guitar. His face had gone white. He was staring at Garrick like he was seeing him for the first time. "Dad," Sterling's voice cracked. "She's your daughter. She's a liability." Garrick repeated, spittle flying. "A sunk cost. I made the right financial decision." Sterling looked down at the Stratocaster in his hands. The stage lights caught the perfect vintage sunburst finish. He ran his thumb over the strings once. Then he gripped it by the neck. If this is an investment, Sterling said quietly, his voice dangerously calm, I'm liquidating it. He lifted the guitar high over his head. For a moment, everyone thought he was just posturing. Then he brought it down. The impact echoed through the venue like a gunshot. Wood splintered. The neck cracked but didn't separate completely. Electronics shattered, components scattering across the stage floor. Strings snapped with musical pings. Sterling lifted it again. Smashed it down harder. Again. And again. Don't you ever. Smash. Use her life. Smash. To buy my fame. The final impact split the body completely in half. Sterling was breathing hard, standing in the wreckage, his hands bleeding from the broken strings. He was crying. The room was frozen. Nobody moved. I stepped forward, still holding the microphone. My voice was steady. I didn't just make a slideshow, Dad. Aunt Maura sent these files to the IRS and probate court this morning. Your assets were frozen as of 3 p.m. today. The audit you lied about? Now it's real. Deidre's face. That frozen smile finally cracked. What? Her voice was small, terrified. Try your credit card, I told her. Try any account. They're all frozen, pending investigation. She fumbled for her phone. I watched her try to log into their bank app, watched her face drain of color as the holds appeared. Garrick. Her voice rose to a panicked pitch. Garrick, what did you do? But Garrick wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the shattered guitar. At the investors already backing toward the exit. At his son, standing in the debris of his investment. Someone in the crowd spoke up. I want my name removed from any association with this venture. Another voice. My attorney will be contacting you. They were leaving. One by one, then in clusters. The VIP section emptied. Family friends suddenly remembered other obligations. Extended relatives developed urgent reasons to depart. Within 5 minutes, the venue was half empty. Garrick stood alone in the space that was packed with admirers. His investment, his golden boy showcase, his perfectly crafted narrative, all destroyed. The shattered guitar pieces scattered at his feet like evidence. Sterling set down the broken neck carefully, almost reverently. He walked past Garrick without looking at him, climbed down from the stage, and came to stand beside me. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't know. I know, I squeezed his shoulder. You do now. Garrick finally spoke, his voice hoarse, broken. You've destroyed this family. No, Dad, I met his eyes, my gaze unflinching. I survived it. 6 months. 6 months since the night Sterling annihilated an $18,000 guitar to prove I was worth more than wood and strings. The morning light now floods my new apartment, a warmth my old dorm room never knew. Unit 4B isn't fancy. Second-hand furniture from Craigslist, plants on the windowsill I've somehow kept alive, but it's mine. It's 8 o'clock. I stand at my kitchen counter, pill organizer in hand. I pop Tuesday's compartment open, shake a single Vim pad into my palm. I swallow it with coffee. No shaking hands. No panic. Just routine. 6 months. Seizure-free. I open my mail. There it is. The envelope with the state seal. My driver's license. Reinstated. The photo is terrible, but I'm smiling. I run my thumb over the laminated surface, and something cracks open in my chest that isn't pain. It's relief. Freedom. My phone buzzes. Mom's name. I watch it ring, letting it go to voicemail. Rochelle. Please. Her voice, thin and desperate, fills the room. The bank is foreclosing. Your father's accounts are still frozen. We'll be homeless. You have to help us. Family helps family. The old Rochelle would have already been opening her banking app, scrambling to save people who let her brain starve. But not this Rochelle. I open my texts instead. You sold me out to keep that house 10 years ago. You had the medicine in your hand and threw it away. I'm not saving you this time. Send. I block her number before she can even respond. No hesitation. No guilt. Just a clean boundary, held firm. The trust fund had finally come through probate 2 months ago. The forensic accountants found Garrick had stashed assets in a separate holdings account, and the court liquidated his Mercedes and the studio equipment. Since the trust was a preferred creditor, I got paid before the banks took the house. $89,000 after legal fees. Maura helped me set it up exactly the way Grandma intended. Tuition paid in full. Medical expenses covered. A new MacBook Pro for my thesis work. Dr. Thorne, at my last appointment, had simply studied me. "You're managing this beautifully," he'd said. Not surviving. Managing. I see Maura every Sunday for brunch now. Therapy every Wednesday at 4. Processing what it truly means when your parents choose a house over your life. A knock. 3 quick raps. Sterling stands there, acoustic guitar case in one hand, backpack slung over his shoulder. He's 20 now. Working 2 part-time jobs, taking classes at community college. Brought lunch, he says, holding up a sandwich bag. And this. He pulls out a folded $50 bill. Sterling. No, it's my monthly payment. For the pawn shop debt. I told you that's settled. And I told you I'm paying you back anyway. He pushes past me, sets the 50 on the counter. You sold your laptop so you could live. We eat at my coffee table. He tells me about his music theory professor, about the open mic night he played last Thursday. His voice is lighter now, no longer carrying the crushing weight of being the golden child. After lunch, he pulls out his acoustic, plays something simple and sweet. I return to my drafting table by the window, sketching elevations for my thesis. The afternoon light stretches across the floor between us. 2 siblings in a modest apartment, both free. When he leaves at 5, I watch him walk to the bus stop, his guitar case bouncing against his back. Then I see my new driver's license on the fridge, held by a magnet shaped like a tiny house. I pull out my journal and write, "I used to think love meant sacrifice. Dad taught me love was a transaction. Assets and liabilities. But Sterling showed me love is smashing a guitar when your sister's life is worth more than wood and strings." I didn't just survive. I won. I close the journal and look around Unit 4B. The plants. The furniture. The MacBook Pro. The pill organizer on the counter. Tuesday's compartment empty. Mine. All of it. Mine.